How's it going, everybody? It's the CDH Warrior, and this is CDH. We survived this? Now what? So, let's roll the title. So, as the title explained, this is going to be about the social aspect of CDH. What a lot of people don't see of dealing with CDH, dealing with health issues, getting older. And it's one we're going to go through high school, college, well, junior high, high school, college, and then the workplace as well. So it's going to be, apparently my video froze. So it's going to be, that is uncomfortable. It's going to be unusual to go through this series talking about growing up with CDH. How do you deal with some of the things? And it's one, this is just kind of the intro video for it. How to deal with high school, how to deal with the weird looks, the confused glances, the questions. What are common questions that get asked? And it's one, after I do that, I'll kind of go through the psychology aspect and dealing with what I've been through having both CDH and sensory integration disorder, which makes for a really wacky combination. But such is life. It's one, I don't talk too much about my health or my, in general, life. I want to try and make this series so we go through everything from high school. I'm going to talk about dating. I'm going to talk about relationships. I'm going to get into that stuff and the hard questions that you need to ask yourself. You need to ask yourself and you need to ask others. But the whole dating relationship thing will be towards the end and more. I'll admit we may get into some adult, semi-adult topics, PG-13 topics, but that doesn't make them any less relevant or less relevant to somebody in junior high. I know that sounds very weird, that why is it not any less relevant? It's one I'll kind of explain more as this goes on. Part of this is kind of springing off of a series I did for a nonprofit group. They have a Facebook group that I'm in, and I'm also on the board of this nonprofit and do a lot of interpersonal things for them. And I realize how odd that sounds. I deal with outreach through gaming. I deal with, I'm kind of the resident geek. But even being a geek, there's a lot of stuff that I kind of need to explain. That kind of needs to be put out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be something that I how do I put this? I've completely lost my train of thought on that one. I don't have trains of thought. I have squirrels that randomly go through my head. Um, it's when I was talking about having CDH and sensory integration disorder and how that can be unusual. But it's one I was also talking about working for the nonprofit and the group. Where was I going with that? Anyway, I'll pick the train of thought up later, and it will make absolutely no sense to anyone, but it makes perfect sense to me. But it's one with everything I do with the outreach, with apparently we're having a car contest down somewhere out there. But it's one dealing with CDH, the health issues I deal with. It can make it awkward socially. I'll already kind of throw this out that on top of everything, as if, and I'm not stating my life was bad. Do not get me wrong on that. My life was really good growing up. But on top of the CDH, the sensory integration disorder, I had a seizure disorder, which not a lot of people can relate to. It made it very awkward to socialize because I wasn't super athletic. It's not that I was bad at sports. It's just that I didn't have the lung capacity to keep up. If I went and played for long, grueling amounts of time, 15, 20 minutes, that was extreme. But it's one with the social aspect of CDH. And I'll touch on my high school years as well. I'll touch on college years because that's, like I said, the goal is from junior high to now. And we're going to deal with the awkwardness of everything. But it's one, at my age, at 28 years old, I have to look back and consider, yes, my life was good, but how could I make a video for someone that would make theirs better? First off, on the social aspect, we're not very athletic. I mean, you see how thin I am. I'm not tiny, but I'm not built. I can run to an extent, but I wear out quicker. I don't necessarily have the raw power that most people have. I don't have the raw physical strength. And I've been slowly trying to build that back up. I lost a good portion of it over the last probably 5 to 10 years. Which it's not easy to try and build that back up. But I'm trying. But when you talk about the social aspect, there's a part of you that ends up being an outcast. Not necessarily ostracized, just an outcast. Just the oddball of the group. And it's one that's where I lived for most of high school. And to some extent, college as well. I'm still that way. Let's see. It's been 10 years since high school, and college, so even 10 years later, it's still the same. I'm not saying I don't have friends. That's not the case and not what I'm stating. I'm just not somebody that's going to pick up and click with a group. I'm not just going to show up, be the automatic pick of a social person. And I'm trying to work on that. I'm trying to get to where I'm more social. And I'm not stating I'm a hermit. I go to work. I deal with a lot of different things. Last weekend, I went to a Japanese class that was learning Japanese, and they meet once a month. But it's really hard to get involved in groups when you don't necessarily fit in with anyone. I mean, we'll touch on some of this on Monday, me and my dad, and then we'll kind of turn that into a series for me of trying to explain all of the social aspects of CDH. But this is just kind of a general overview right now. It's one, why do we become ostracized in a group? We don't look the same. We don't sound the same. That sounds very weird, but when you've lived with CDH as long as I have, it makes perfect sense. I have a lot of scars. I have a lot of I'm not going to say physical deformities, but although that is kind of an accurate statement, it's one, I have some physical ailments. I have scoliosis, and it's one I'm going to kind of remove my shirt because most people don't see this, but they'll understand my comment in a second. But it's one I was talking about what I look like, and I don't mind showing. I have a pectus, a sunken chest, but I also have all this scar tissue here, and it goes all the way down to my navel. And I have scar tissue across my side and my back. But it's one that was really tough, especially typical high school teenagers going to the pool. I rarely took my shirt off. I rarely enjoyed having to deal with the questions and the kind of back and forth being looked at differently. And it's one that is pretty much going to be how your life is going to be. It's one, I'm not trying to say this to scare people. It's a reality. You deal with all the weird looks and the questions, and it grates on you. And it's one, I probably sound like I've lost my train of thought now, but we'll make it work. Living with CDH, living with any rare disorder is in general, but living with CDH in general, or living with CDH specifically, it leaves you with a very awkward question. And that is, how much do I tell people about what I've been through? Because while most people think, oh, it's 2023, we're a lot more open and accepting of everything, we're not. I hate to tell you this, but we're not. Not many people are ready to deal with CDH and deal with the questions of adults living with birth defects and rare disorders. We're still, and it's one, I don't outright experience this through work and otherwise, but it's an undertone to pretty much everything I deal with, is kind of the, I liked it better when we didn't have to see everything. And that's how the general public is. It's unfortunate, but it's reality. And this is where I talk about the social aspect and being, quote unquote, ostracized. It's not so much that I'm ostracized from the CDH aspect. I'm ostracized by the aspect of being different. And it's one, like I said, I've pretty much probably lost my train of thought with this video. And normally these videos are 20 minutes each. So we're getting to the end of what we can deal with. After I do this series with the social aspect, I will come back and deal with the neurologic and the musculoskeletal defects that can occur, which they are quite relevant. But I wanted to show, or wanted to talk to you all about what it's really like to live with CDH. And no, I have absolutely no notes on my hands, even though that's what it looks like. I've got a callus on my hand that I've been messing with. But it's one, that's pretty much all I've got to say for this week. So, for the CDH Warrior, this has been CDH. We survived this. Now what? Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Bye.